Coming to you from his studio in downtown San Francisco, this is the Backstage Bay Area Podcast. And now, here's your host, Steve Roby.
Hey everyone, welcome to Backstage Bay Area. Thanks for joining us. On today's show, we're celebrating the sound of New Orleans, not as a postcard, but as a living, breathing musical engine. My guest, Delfeayo Marsalis, trombonist, bandleader, producer, educator, and the founder of the Uptown Jazz Orchestra, a big band built to carry the city's street rhythms, swing tradition, and brass band joy into the present. And the timing could not be better. Delfeayo's SF Jazz Show lands right in Mardi Gras week when New Orleans is at full voltage. Delfeayo Marsalis joins me now. Delfeayo, welcome to Backstage Bay Area.
Happy to be here, and it's sunny here in the Crescent City, the Big Easy, and we're looking forward to bringing some of that Crescent City joy to the Bay Area.
All right. It's an honor and pleasure to have you on the show, sir.
Well, I'm delighted and haven't played SF Jazz, so I'm looking forward to coming down there, and always loved the Bay Area.
Delfeayo, you're one of the most visible musical ambassadors for New Orleans culture working today, and you've done it through performance, producing, and education. For listeners meeting you through this SF Jazz Show, what's the short version of your story? Where are you from? What first pulled you toward the trombone and this tradition?
Well, originally from Kendall, Louisiana, out by the airport. And, of course, I'm one of 6 sons born to Ellis and Dolores Marsalis. And we grew up in a small house. And at that point, it was Ellis, the third, is my older brother. He and I shared a room, and Branford and Wynton, they shared a room. And, eventually the last 2 came along at some point. But I would say that my parents are very instrumental in kind of shaping us, not only from a musical standpoint of view, but just the idea of trying your best to utilize whatever you have at your disposal and making a statement one way or another. So that's what I try to bring to the bandstand. And the band has a great time. So we started Uptown Jazz Orchestra in 2008, and since then, kind of the model of the band has shifted. When we first started, we were more modeled after what Wynton was doing, Jazz at Lincoln Center, and it's kind of repertory band. We're playing Duke Ellington music and Count Basie music. And while we still do that, at a certain point, I realized that the brass band music, which is really vital to the vibrancy of the city, was very important. So even though we're called Uptown Jazz Orchestra, we play just a wide range of things that you're not going to hear from any other, I guess you'd say, jazz orchestra, a large ensemble.
When you first assembled Uptown Jazz Orchestra, what sound were you chasing? What did you want audience to feel when the band hit?
Well, it kind of started in a response to a performance that I did the year prior with a different big band. They were playing Ellington's Nutcracker Suite. Mm. And, it's one of those things where I guess you could say they were reading the notes correctly, but it didn't have the feeling and the essence of the music. And I'm just a believer that the music is not what's on the page. Mm. The music is what you hear and what you experience. So just as a response to that, I decided that the following year, I would pull together the musicians that I thought would best capture the spirit of Duke Ellington's music. Mm. Now, a lot of these guys didn't really read music with frequency, so we rehearsed for about 3 or 4 months. So we started rehearsing in August, and it was a thing where I said, look, we're going to just work it and work it and work it and work it. And by the end, my dad was involved, Hurl and Riley, some of the top players here in New Orleans. And we did the performances, and it really felt good. And at the end, the trumpeter, Marlon Jordan, asked me, what are you going to do with the band now? I said, there's nothing. The band, I just put it together for this performance. He said, nah, man, you might as well keep it going. Mm. And Uptown Jazz Orchestra was born.
All right. What a great story, man. I want to cue up the first track we're going to hear today. The title alone tells me you're blending humor, lineage, and a little chaos, which is very New Orleans. What's the story behind Raid on Mingus House Party, and what were you aiming for in the way the band moves through that piece?
So Raid on Mingus House Party is a collection of different, I guess, coincidences and ideas. So I came up with the bass line first. Boom, 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 beep, 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 dee, dee, dee. Which I was like, man, how did I come up with something that hip? And I would later learn that is actually Batman, right? But I swear, for 2 years, I had no idea, but the bass player kept playing it wrong. And I said, no, it's on a downbeat. Why do you keep, he said, man, it's just the Batman theme. And I had no idea. I said, oh, well. And then on top of that, I was working with Wynton, and he did a song, and he made an observation about Mingus, which is that Mingus's music, it had a certain type of potency because each of the instruments plays in their, like the natural register. Like, so you know, for example, you have a tenor saxophone, it's going to play in that lower register. Now, a lot of guys will play the tenor saxophone in the upper register, but the tenor is designed just like the voices. And then you have the alto plays a certain register, trombone. So that was the idea, first of all. So I came up with the melody, which is based on a Mingus tune, which is not coming to me now. I think it's do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do. No, it's do-dee-dee-be-do-do-do. It's one of the Mingus tunes. It's not coming to me right now. And then once I had that, I came up with the idea. We took boo-doo-dee-dee-doo-dee-da. That's from another Mingus. I just took that straight. I just wrote out what Mingus wrote, and I said, yeah, I liked it. Then I said, okay, we got to put the New Orleans element, which is something that Mingus also used a lot, which is having group improvisation. So we'd have the lead trumpeters playing up at the top, and then you got the trombone playing with the mute. And it's just like pure cacophony. Now, at the end of the saxophone solos, we were in the studio, and this is the great thing about doing a live recording as opposed to, and by live, I mean we're all playing in the studio at the same time.
Sure.
As the saxophones are ending, I just start pointing. I told the Barry sax, play something. Then I told the tenor, play something. So at the end, it's like all of the saxes are soloing at the same time. It was just a great experience and something that I think really captures the spirit of Mingus's.
one of the things I love about your work is that it doesn't separate jazz history from community life. In the press materials for your Uptown Jazz Orchestra album, Crescent City Jewels, you talk about a conversation with Max Roach and how he reframed your view of greatness and something you see in everyday heroes. How did that change the way you write for a large ensemble, and how do you decide what stories the music should honor?
Well, it's just a question of which stories are, I guess, come to mind at the moment. And just for example, the Funky Meters are a very important New Orleans band. And I always see, people know about my family, but if you ask someone about New Orleans music, I don't know that we would necessarily come to mind. It might be Fats Domino or Alan Toussaint or the Funky Meters. And that's important to me to incorporate as much of that music as possible. So that would be an example. I said, man, I need a song that sounds like the Meters. And that was the intent. And I just sat down and came up with it. But, playing with someone like Max Roach, and I've been fortunate to play some kind of way with the three of the greatest drummers in jazz history, Art Blakey, Elvin Jones, and Max Roach. And I learned so much from each of them. But a lot had more to do with, I guess we would say, what's important in the music has nothing to do with the music itself. And that's kind of your understanding of humanity and of people and your ability to express that. So that's something that I'm always trying to capture.
All right. Thanks for sharing that. Let's set up the second track we're going to play because it's the perfect title for Mardi Gras week, and it's also the opener on Crescent City Jewels. Can you tell us what the musical DNA of Sidewalk Sizzle is, and how do you build that kind of groove inside a big band without losing the street level feel?
Man, it's just a New Orleans thing. I don't even know how to
can put it into words, right?
Yeah. Well, I knew I wanted to write something that was funky, so I wrote the song. In fact, the interesting story about this one is a couple of weeks before we went to press with the CD, we played a gig at Snug Harbor. And I said to the audience, I said, we're going to play this song. We don't have a title for it. And after it's finished, I want you all to just let us know what you think it sounds like. Sure enough, we played the song, and she actually gets credit on the record. she said it sounded like the Sidewalk Sizzle.
All right.
And that's kind of how it goes. But, I think that's a great part about the music, where you can bring everybody in and get everybody involved.
Sure.
And I don't know, had we not been there that night, I don't know, and played that song, what the title would have been. But I think it perfectly captures kind of that New Orleans flavor.
We just heard Sidewalk Sizzle featuring my guest, Delfeayo Marsalis. It's from his album Crescent City Jewels, which is available now. Your upcoming SF Jazz performance is titled Uptown on Mardi Gras Day, and you're bringing the Uptown Jazz Orchestra to Minor Auditorium during Mardi Gras week. For someone walking into the room expecting a jazz concert, what can they actually expect from this band live in terms of energy, pacing, and the way you build a set?
Well, I often think about our shows almost like a 10-course meal. If you go to one, you wouldn't expect that the chef would say, okay, I'm going to bring out, 8 chicken dishes and dessert, or I'm going to bring you out, 5 steak dishes and 2 fish, like that. I try to, make it as diverse as possible. So for sure, we're going to start off with the New Orleans flavor, something that's going to really put you in that mood to have a good time.
Yeah.
And usually we do a couple of those tunes, and then I'll see after that. A lot of times we like to go to the swing. A lot of bands out here aren't really swinging. That's not really where the music is at today.
Sure.
So that's a very important component to me, because I'm feeling that any band that actually can swing needs to be out here swinging, because it's not a sound that people hear live
Sure.
much anymore. Yeah. So we'll do that. And then for sure, we're going to play some carnival music, which is just always having a good time. If it's Al Carnival, Tom Johnson, or Earl King, these guys really understood how to capture that vibe. And it's difficult to capture that kind of I guess the sound of an actual city is a difficult thing. If you sit down and say, I'm just going to write how New Orleans, I'm going to put to music how New Orleans actually is. But somehow the carnival music really does capture that. And then we have tribute, of course, to our Black Masking Indian nation. And then at some point, more than likely, we'll have a slow tune, a ballad. But it's so much that we have to choose from. I would say for sure it will be one of the most diverse and funky good time shows as far as a jazz concert you've ever been to.
Right. Sounds good. One last question for you. How large a band are you bringing with you to the show?
We're going to be 14 strong.
All right.
So, and we're gonna bring the party without a question. That's what we do. And sometimes we just feel like funking it up.
Delfeayo Marsalis with the Uptown Jazz Orchestra performs Uptown on Mardi Gras Day at SF Jazz in Minor Auditorium on Thursday, February 19th. Showtime is 7:30 p.m. Tickets are available right now at sfjazz.org. Delfeayo, thanks so much for joining me, and thanks for keeping the spirit of New Orleans music alive and moving it forward.
Yes, sir, Brother Roby. I appreciate it, and have a good day.
All right. This is Backstage Bay Area. We'll be right back.
Are you a jazz musician preparing for a run in San Francisco? The Backstage Bay Area podcast wants to help tell your story. We are currently filling our guest lineup with the artists keeping the jazz scene alive. If you have dates booked at a local club or concert hall, let's get you on the mic to discuss your latest work. Connect with us directly. Send an email to backstage.sfbay@gmail.com. Just let us know when you'll be playing in San Francisco. That's backstage.sfbay@gmail.com.
Backstage Bay Area is dedicated to keeping jazz alive in the 415 by spotlighting the artists, presenters, and venues that sustain this music. The most meaningful way to support local jazz is simple. Show up, buy a ticket, and experience the music live. Visit BackstageBayArea.com and explore our upcoming concerts section, featuring both a weekly guide and a weekend guide to jazz shows across the region, plus the latest concert news. Thank you for keeping jazz alive in the 415.
You've been listening to the Backstage Bay Area podcast. Visit us on the web at BackstageBayArea.com. And don't forget to keep jazz alive in the 415.